This podcast is brought to you by Tethered. Now, with deer seasons winding down, it is a great time to take the plunge into saddle hunting, especially if you've been considering it. Maybe you've just wanted to try out the gear before you made a purchase. So with that, our friends at Tethered are always coming up with ways to help saddle hunters. And this year, they're doing the Tethered Teach and Train Tour, and it's hitting 20 different cities. And the session is 100% free to attend, where you'll be able to try out all their gear. So here's what's happening, or what is also included in the event. There's a free lunch or dinner, depending on the time of the event. All their saddle hunting gear will be in one place, so you can test absolutely everything that they have. And then there's going to be lots of giveaways and freebies. There's event-only pricing and discounts on Tethered gear. And then there's insider access on some gear, so you'll get a sneak peek as to some of the things that are yet to be released. Then there'll also, of course, be saddle hunting experts there available to answer any of your questions while you're hanging and trying out the different gear. So head over to tetherednation.com and check out the Teach and Train Tour page to see the list of cities and dates. I'm planning to be at the event on May 28th through the 31st at the Seven Springs Tack Shoot, so I hope to see you all there. The first thing I do in the morning before a hunt, before a scout, or just before getting ready for work is have my morning coffee, and I'm sure most of you out there listening are the same. Make sure you're filling your mug with Skull Brew coffee, as it is the only coffee company that is both 2% for conservation certified and donates 10% of its profits to conservation organizations to help secure the future of our wild places. So head to skullbrewcoffee.com and choose between 3 killer roasts of coffee and know that you are supporting conservation with every sip. Welcome to the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Skull Brew Coffee Company. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you're listening to episode number 161. Today I'm joined again by my buddy Johnny Stewart for part 2 of our conversation, and we're talking late season, big woods, and DIY travel hunts. So stay tuned. All right. What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Hope you all are feeling well. Hope you are feeling fine. We're back to it's hump day, making it partway through the week. Hopefully this podcast helps you get through the middle of the week. It's a little bit of a sad week, man. This is the last week of hunting season for me. It'll finally come to a close here this next weekend here in Pennsylvania for me. I did manage to get out this past weekend. I was pretty stoked because we've not had great late season weather so far this late season in PA, or at least from what I can recall and from the days that I actually had available to go hunt. So this past weekend I was pretty stoked because we were getting some weather that was moving in. It was going to get a little bit snowy, a little bit nasty, a little bit cold, nice temp drop. And I was thinking, from the previous hunts that I did, the parking lots, but the public lands were kind of, lots of folks were headed out because the weather was conducive to people getting out, and it wasn't crappy, it wasn't super cold. And so I was kind of stoked for this weekend just because I figured the nasty weather would probably keep most people indoors, or at least off the pieces that I was hunting. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So I went into this piece where I knew that there was like a decent food source, and it's snowing, it's blowing. I got into the tree, there was nobody there, and I had a good feeling about the sit. I was like, I think this is going to work out really well. The snow quickly turned from snow to sleet, and then it turned from sleet to freezing rain. And the hunt, I basically just got soaked, cold, and then I'm not sure if you're following me on social, but I ended up having a slip. Fall, smash my knee, land on my sticks, and busted myself up a little bit, which was not great, not a great way. I'm hoping to redeem myself this coming weekend because that's not the way I envisioned the season ending for me. It was just one of those things, I was out of the tree, I was walking back to the truck, wasn't like I wasn't able to see, had a light and stuff like that, but I was walking along the edge of the swamp and I couldn't see where like the swamp edge water kind of ended and where it, where it was like firm ground because it had snowed at this point a couple inches. And so I'm walking along and I just made a step and I hit a piece of ice and fell. My knee smashed through the ice, the leg goes into the drink and, got wet. And then of course, when I fell, I carry my sticks on my back and, the sticks kind of flipped around, and when I fell, I landed on the double step. It's gave me a nice stab in the ribs. So that was just a great way to end the hunt. It was one of those things where it was so cold out that I wasn't sure what I hurt. So I just jumped up real quick before any pain could set in and just started started moving toward the truck. Cause I was like, once I get to the truck, it can hurt all at once. Cause then I'm good. I just don't want to have to be stuck out here and hobbling my crippled butt back to the truck. So all's well that ends well. Not too terrible, a little sore, but no more worse for wear at this point. But today's episode is actually a part number 2 that I did with Johnny Stewart. We released the last one last week, and where we kind of talked, more specifically just about public land hunting and a little bit of big woods. Today's episode, what we're really kind of diving into is more late season, and Johnny usually always makes a trip out to Iowa during late season as well. And so we talk a little bit about late season, a little bit about DIY hunting. So this is a carryover conversation from our previous podcast. But before we jump into that, I do want to do a quick piece of housekeeping here real quick. So the Pennsylvania chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers are going to be at the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg from February 1st through the 9th. So be sure to visit their booth and learn what they're all about. They'll have some membership specials and prizes that they'll be giving out throughout the week. So if you've not signed up for BHA, this would be a great time to do it. If you've not renewed your membership for this year, this would also be a great time to do that as well. So they're also doing a backcountry bash at the Appalachian Brewing Company in Harrisburg on Friday, February the 7th, and this gig starts at 6 p.m. So if you've never been to a BHA event, they're super rad. It's a great opportunity to go have some drinks, talk to some like-minded folks from a bunch of different places, meet some new people, hell, maybe run into some people that you just haven't seen in a while and trade some stories. But these are always really cool and really awesome events to go to. So be sure to check that out. Also, if you're not following the Pennsylvania chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, be sure to do that. Give them a follow on both Instagram and Facebook. This is a great place to learn about what they're doing on our behalf here in Pennsylvania. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for listening, and we'll jump into part number 2 with Johnny Stewart. Exactly. So I wanted to ask you, man, talking about late season, knowing that you're headed out to Iowa, how do you approach hunting late season, right? Because, for me, hunting public during late season, it's like I really don't have access in most cases to like a significant food source that's like an ag field or anything like that. And so I'm really relying on like some type of secondary mass crop, like whether it's, red oaks that are still laying around or something in some, high stem count shit where they still have enough browse where they can get plenty of food, inside the timber or whatever the case might be. How do you approach hunting late season? Because of course during the rut, we're looking at, find the does, right? Hunt does, you'll find bucks, if you don't have any other approach, or you're hunting hot sign, like you're finding scrapes and rubs and primary scrape areas and stuff like that. But when it comes to late season, right, it's like those things kind of become somewhat deprioritized, right? And so what are the things that you're looking for a late season to try to get on a good buck?
Well, again, I want to say is that where, and deer live in habit, like I get talked about, okay, I got to look for food and cover, but which is the main thing, but deer inhabit so many different regions and, like environments in the country. So it's, you got to know, like, I'm going to talk about what I look for, but where I hunt too. I'm not going
Right.
to, I'm going to tell you what to do here, and you live in Texas, and you're like, that ain't going to work for you.
Right.
But like if you're in the Midwest, maybe acorns for a mast, like you said, ag, yeah, definitely. And like you see on TV, they come out to the corn. That's a definite. And a friend of mine has some private land, and the first time I witnessed it, I was like, these bucks, like on TV, 140, 150, like zombies. It's like they're addicted to corn. It's like crack. I'm like, what? It's cold for 4 or 5 days. They'll come right out. We're sitting there, and they just come walking out. I'm like, this is crazy, They are addicted to that corn. Like it's an addiction. They have to have it. So anyways, but yeah, out that way, and from hunting public land out that way, everybody I feel wants that rut, hunt that, and which is good, but a lot of you just got to know that a deer exists that you want to hunt, whether it's 120 or 150, first of all, and then so like that's when I went out to Iowa, I put cameras up, but food is number one. And if it's public land, they might be, first thing I check and see if there's acorns in the timber, because they'll stay in the acorns. And on public land, they might not go out to that corn or beans. You might have to catch them up in the timber. And so, or you might have to be in the timber before dark, like up in the woods, which, like people on TV, it's like if you sit at the edge of the cornfield, and that's good, but public land, no, you might have to get up in the timber. But and I started hunting even, you got to be the deer. Like, I started hunting mornings. Like, people would always hunt the evenings in Iowa and Illinois. We don't hunt mornings. So, what do you mean? Because I would try to set up in some of them places I hunt in Iowa. This year, the EHD hit, and when I went out there to put cameras up, there was like no deer there. But in the past, I mean, like the deer are just strung out through all them fingers and points. They're just all scattered. When you go if you go up in the timber, it's like, there they go. They're done. Game over.
Right.
So I started hunting before daylight. I'd get up in the timber and I'd catch them coming. I've walked up on does bedded before daylight, and they kind of like look at me. In a place where I would see 20, 30 deer, there was tons of deer, but you couldn't hunt because and then you push the does, and then the does go on a private, and then the buck's like, okay, don't go there. So you ain't never gonna see a buck, so your hunt's over. But that's one thing I started doing in Iowa. And you don't have to. If I said, man, and I got cameras, I'll check on cameras. I might hunt. But that's another thing. The weather, the weather is a big issue too. They might, but yeah, I started hunting to where I'd catch them coming in the timber, in the morning, maybe shoot it, and their demeanor different. They go out to the field, they're looking up in trees under logs, and you're like, oh shit, man, and they're out looking for someone up in the tree. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Right.
And you get up in the woods, and they come in from eating corn all night. They walk right by you. They don't even bat an eye.
They're all corn drunk.
Yeah, they are. And they just come in and they walk right by and take your pick. I shot mine like that last year. I was sick, and I was real sick. I was only out there for a few days, and I got up in the tree before daylight. Here he come up over the hill, and I shot him. But like even Ohio, like if you can find a good mass, another place I hunt in Ohio this year is a good mass, and that's another thing with acorns. It's hit or miss in the places I hunt. Sometimes it'll be down on the lower elevations. Sometimes it's another 300 feet up on the top. That's another thing with acorns. Sometimes, and people say, my buddy said, there's acorns all over. I go up there, I bite into them. They're all rotted. Bugs are in. They're no good. The deer won't eat them.
Right.
I said, no, they're no good. You got to make sure there's food there.
Right.
A place I'm hunting in Ohio this year, I'm excited to get down there. I hunted a few days rut, but the acorns, I was down there in November, 14th, 15th, it was like rain. They were coming down, and it's been a while since it was like that. And I'm like, I left cameras there, and I'm like, the pretty rugged mountains, but the hunting pressure dies off. And actually, the hunters, there was a guy coughing. No, he's blowing a grunt call for 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, he blew 100 yards from oh my goodness. And then 10 minutes go but anyways, so they're in there. And I'm like, and I don't get pissed. I'm like, okay, they're here. So I left, and there's another stander. So basically they're in there. So they're keeping the deer out of there, being in there. So the mass is still laying on the ground. So come December, November, January, guess where the deer are going to be? Right. And I just found last week I found a pile of cards. I didn't even know what was on them from years ago. There was like 12 of them, and I read them. And I just found a card last week. It was from 2 years ago, and I had like 250 inches on the camera from that time of year. You know what I mean? Right. It was January 18th, 2017. And at first I didn't know where it was, and then I said, I know. So, but the deer will move back into a hard hunted area once all the hunters move out, because the food's still there, and I kind of like that. And I let you guys fuck it up, put your scent, and them guys are smoking. I'm like, okay, good. I'll be back in January, and you guys won't be here. No one will be here but me,
Right.
So
That's
if you got a good
interesting.
mass. Yeah, and like if there's like pockets of acorn, whether it's down low, but you got to, I mean, don't just see an acorn, so but acorns everywhere. And then I remember the one year there were so few pockets of acorns. The last spot, the longest road, it was that's where the acorn, and that was the last spot they were eating. I said, well, come down January, that's where I need to hunt. And I got down there one evening in January. I went right down the road. There was like 10, 12, there ain't many deer. There was like 10 or 12 deer right along the road. I'm like, well, they must have ate all the acorns up in the woods, and this is the last place for them to go, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely it might go, that area down there's years there are no acorns. So I won't even go down there late season.
Right.
Because, and that's in Ohio, the people feed them, and they put corn out behind their house so the deer. But if there's acorns up and it's like this year, I got a couple areas down there that got good acorns, so I'm like looking forward to it.
Right.
In Iowa, there's just more mature bucks in Iowa than there are. So I know with my cameras, and the one spot was a good acorn spot. I put cameras when I was out there 2 weeks ago, and the other ones they're just more deer there, and kind of same thing. You want to know where there's some cover and kind of catch them heading toward or coming in from the fields at night or heading back out. And every day I've been watching the weather, and we're going to hunt, and it's going to be warm out there. I'm like, man.
Yeah, I was just
That
gonna.
deer
I was just gonna
yeah,
ask you, like, what are you looking for, like late season, for weather patterns? Like, what are you keying in on?
if you get, the best time, a guy who used to track deer told me, said the best time to be out tracking the deer for deer movement is a windy, snowy, just they're up in trees cracking, frozen. They'll be up walking, hiking all over.
Mm-hmm.
At Iowa, I seen 13 buck in one day. I probably hiked 4 or 5 miles.
Wow.
But they're just moving. And even here in PA or Maine or wherever you get that storm and that wind and snow, they're on the hoof. They're moving. I don't know why, but they're moving. But if we got like 4 or 5 days of cold weather and snow, they kind of freak out. They have to eat to stay warm. And, when I go to Iowa, I've been looking at the weather. It's supposed to be like 40, 30. I'm like, this sucks.
Right.
Sucks. Because I really, I love the snow. But there's usually always snow there.
Right.
So I want that cold, snowy weather. And then again, I'm thinking in my head, okay, I want to get to Iowa. I got 12 cameras. I might check them at night. If you're like, you crazy, in the woods? Yeah, it's the best time to check my cameras. I go in there and hang a stand at nighttime. But I'm thinking, or, it's muzzle loader. I'm going to try to bow hunt this year, but I'm allowed to use my bow with my muzzle loader tag. But,
right.
Yeah, I want to go in and I'll take my muzzle loader in. But I don't know, I want to, then if it snows down, you can see tracks. That's like, right there. It's like black and white. Okay, here's where they're coming out at night.
Right.
So I love the snow, and then like browse deer, like northern PA where I hunt, they'll move a little more because it's browse, but like hemlocks, you got to be down maybe some pines, got to have some cover, got to be out of the wind.
Yeah.
There's certain pockets of areas that now that I've been hunting up there for half a dozen years, I can go to a place in January. I got maybe 4 or 5 spots in mind that I know there's going to be mature bucks maybe ganged up or living there.
Right.
I don't know whatever for a reason. They're out of the wind. There's some hemlocks, and because the browse is pretty much everywhere. The one deer I was hunting 2 years ago, he was living right along the road, and he'd go back in the woods. They're just vast, and come winter, after all the hunters been through there, I said, they probably killed me. He's living right along this road. Everybody parks here. Everybody hunts here. I went back in winter, and there's his tracks, and he was the biggest deer in there. I could tell by the size of the track. He was living right along the road, and he'd go back in the woods. And I liked tracking. I couldn't track him because the conditions weren't good. But definitely, like, when I go up north, I'll if there's a fresh snow, I like to wait a day. I'll drive the roads, and I'll get out, and I'll just look alongside the roads for a track, find a track. And kind of see where he heads. Maybe you can kind of, but now it goes back to having experience, and I got a couple little places down out of the wind, definitely down out of the wind, cover, some browse. I got a couple places in mind that I know bucks are going to gravitate to that area,
right,
in late season and hang out there. But definitely food is an issue. But the hunting pressure is low, and that's why I like it.
Right. Yeah.
Because
That's,
you don't got much competition.
well, that and it's like
So,
for drawing an Iowa tag that time of year, it's easier to draw that tag, isn't it, than it is for what's that?
yep. Yeah, this is my third year. This is my third year in a row to go to Iowa late season.
Right.
I got 3 years in a row, and it's like, I shouldn't even tell anyone. So like, that's my secret. And my buddy, he's like, this year, he's like, I'm going this year. It's my fourth year. I'm getting my point. And he calls me in like July. He's like, I didn't get drawn. I was like, are you kidding me? You go wait 5 years. I said, you're out of your mind,
Right.
So I
Yeah.
said, well, she's got late season, because I have a chance at 140, 150 inch deer in late season out there.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, but
I might have to adopt that. I might have to adopt that philosophy. It's
yeah, you'll put in and you won't get drawn for 2 years.
I know, right? And I'll be calling you, be like, "What the hell, man?" So, dude, I got another question for you, man. The one of the things, and there's so next year I'll be going back to Ohio with my buddy Chad. We hunt a big piece of public down there. It's like 50, 60,000-ish acres, rugged country.
Yeah.
One of the things I've struggled with in the past a little bit, and I love going to this spot because it just kicks my ass, and I like a challenge, and it beat me the last time. And I'm determined to go back and beat it this time. But it's big woods. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of ag around, even on the fringes of the public. There's not really much ag around. Whenever you're in those big wood settings like that, and you're looking at like general travel patterns for a buck, right? They have so much ground to cover that they can cover anywhere that they could possibly go. And a lot of these places are old clear cuts, and it's just places that aren't clear cuts are still nasty thick with just, green briar and shit everywhere. How do you in those situations narrow down where these deer are going to travel, where they're going to move, or how often they're going to make a loop if it's pre-rut or rut? How often they're going to come through like doe bedding areas and stuff like that. Like, how do you kind of make a game plan for the big wood setting or mountain buck setting when they have like no defined, it doesn't seem like there's defined lines of travel, and they have just like anywhere they could go?
Yeah, that's a tough when you get into them rugged areas, because it's mainly open woods. So, yeah, saddle or somewhere where you can catch them, but hopefully you can find a rub in that area. But then does too, I think, as a big thing, know where the does are, because that's where he's going to gravitate to.
Right.
And then sometimes if there ain't a lot of does, there's not a lot of deer. And if you pop a doe, spook a doe, it's maybe a place you can hunt every day. Maybe on top of a mountain and the wind's blowing out, or something. Well, then, hey, I ain't worried about, maybe you spook a doe every time you go in there, but that buck knows in the back of his head that's where them does live. But and I've hunted some rugged areas in Ohio, and I still do. But sometimes I'll skip out of Ohio if there's no mast in them areas. I won't even go, because I'm not wasting all my time if there's no food up there. I got one camera right now. It's a cell camera, and I put it up on the mountain every year because I got service up there. And I just had maybe 130, 140 inch deer on it the other day, but I had another buck, and it's been there since October. I had 2 doe and another, 130 come through during the rut. I'm like, I ain't going up there. I mean, there's nothing up there. There's no food up there. You want to find shit. You want to find where they're pawing the ground, eating the acorns. But because sometimes in Ohio, like I said, they'll move if there's nothing there for them to sustain their life. They'll go with people being allowed to bait in Ohio. They'll go to they'll just. So yeah, sometimes I'll because I got a place in Ohio, a hunting camp, and I go and I there's years I won't hunt there because it's just. But now this year I got that camera way up on a mountain, but down low is where the acorns are. And it was there November 10th. It was raining. I'm like, man, I can't wait till January.
Right.
I thought about going down. Shotgun in is another thing. I find these deer on these public lands. I bow hunt them, and like, oh, okay, I can't wait to get the gun in my hand. I'm going to walk and shoot, and I'm going to kill one. You can't find them. It's like they know when that hunting season is, because it kind of the rut, drops off a little bit, so they're recovering from the rut, and then the guys are in the woods, and it's like I've hunted hard with a gun,
Right.
and it seems like I I don't know if you haven't shot a good buck, really. A couple, seems like bow hunting, but I learned. But people, I shoot my deer, buddy. I shoot my deer and bow, so I don't have to go gun hunting. I'm like, you're missing out on scouting. I mean,
Right.
learning more is being that way, whether you shoot them or not. But yeah, in Ohio, yeah, if you don't see enough deer shit, you don't see enough scrapes, and there ain't many trails. The leaves, see if it broke down, see if the deer are walking, maybe after a rain or something. There's got to be a certain amount of deer for you to hunt there. I mean, I've hunted in the southern West Virginia counties. It's been years since I've been down there, and the deer numbers are low. But you want to at least find some shit. Maybe there's mast where they're feeding, or if not, you got to find a browse somewhere. Maybe there's a clear cut, and gravitate that. But yeah, if your odds are low, especially if you don't have the time, like there was years where I hunt in Ohio, it was like maybe 2 or 3 years, there were no acorns. So I didn't hunt there. I didn't even go there. My buddies went hunting down our camp, and I'm like, we ain't seen it. I was like, yeah, there ain't no deer. I ain't going down there,
Right.
But there are other places, you could travel maybe half hour and get into some, and it's like the mass grab's different every year. So it's like every year, like I'll go up the road down in Ohio, and it's that white oak's loaded.
Right.
But then you go up in the woods, there ain't nothing on that white oak. Oh, and I've learned down in that area, it is spotty, and you got to find them little hot spots, and shoot. It's just, and then sometimes the acorns will run out. Sometimes I get judged by my camera with a deer. If I get a big black oak or something that's dropping or whatever, you put your camera out and maybe they walk by, or you put 2 or 3 cameras, and it's like that means there ain't much food left because you can't see all the acorns with the leaves. You can see where they're feeding on them, but try to find an area where there's mass. But yeah, don't waste your time if there's not enough animals. Like if you go down like October and there's acorns raining, feel like there's too many acorns. It's gonna be too easy. I like seeing a lot of acorns. That means there'll be deer living up in there. But yeah, especially with Ohio, because we can bait them. On private land, that's what they're gonna be.
Yeah.
So
the one good thing about this piece is that, to your point, it's so big that if there's not acorns in this part, you can drive 30 minutes and you're still on that public. You know what I mean? There can be acorns over on this side. So that's the one kind of saving grace of that place, just its sheer size, is that you should find some type of food somewhere, in the fall. Now, the deer numbers there are low. You know what I mean? Like that is the one thing, like you kind of walk into it knowing that there's just not a lot of deer there. But my buddy that I'm going with, like he was at full draw on a, conservatively, he says like 185, might have been pushing 200. You know what I mean? Like a giant. And those are, we have a couple of those on camera in that area that are between, anywhere from 160 to that one, which is, 185, 190. And there's been other deer that we've had on camera there too that he or another friend of ours have had encounters with. So it's a good spot. You're not going to see a lot of deer, but you'll see a magnum if you do, which is kind of which is the allure, right? It's like that's what kind of keeps you going back, is because like you might see that hammer.
Yeah, just knowing he's there, and then sometimes, and I've learned like getting up in that rugged stuff, it might be more of a scout / hunt, and maybe take your bow because sometimes you get way up on the mountains. They're not used to seeing people. You can kind of you could see a long ways, maybe sit on the ground for a little bit. But another thing, know that where you're hunting is good. Just because it was good there last year doesn't mean it's good this year. But find some sign that you can gravitate to, in them big woods. And yeah, you could drive 30 minutes. So like last year, I got a good story here. Last year, I went 30 minutes from my place and it was more of a little more, it was a public land. It had a little more rolling hills. It wasn't as steep, and the acorns were loaded, right? So and that's what I did. I didn't have a lot of time to bow hunt last year, so I still got my tag, but I went 30 minutes north. And I remember the first day I got down there, it was pouring down rain. And I told my buddy, I said, I'm not going out tomorrow morning. I've been working hard. I said, I'm not ready to get soaked or get geared. I'm not even sure where I want to hunt.
Right.
Didn't know where I want to be. So I said, let's go up to that public land and let's just maybe drive the roads. Maybe we'll see one cross, it's a form of scout and just seeing what's going on and scout a little bit. So we got up there before daylight. It was just breaking daylight. And we're going up the road. He was driving. I looked on his side. Coming out of the public land is this monster. He had to have been 175 inch. Monster. I said, holy shit. So we turned around, come back, he's gone. So I went in there. So I said, okay, I know where I'm hunting. And it was already November 15th. I said, I know I didn't have a lot of days of bow hunting. So I put cameras out in there, come back gun season, nothing. Check my cameras, nothing. That's another thing going back to it. If I didn't see this deer, because it's hunted hard. If I didn't see this deer with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe he lived there. You walk in there, there's no sign of a big deer. There's no scrapes, there's no rubs. It's like, I wouldn't even hunt here. But I seen this big monster cross, and then I put cameras. So it's like some of them bucks get to that age, they survived on that hard hunted public land. They live in like what I call scenes. Like they're like satellite. They're like other. They're not even normal deer because to make it, they almost get it down to pat to where they're like cocky. And where I found them traveling. Well, anyways, I didn't get no pictures of them last year, and this year I went down on November, same time, 14th. I got down there 13th. I said, and I was hunting around my camp because the acorns were good, but that guy was smoking, blowing his grunt call. So I got to get out of here. So I went up to this piece of public land, and I walked in there. I found his shed from last year laying in there. And he was a typical 175 with a drop on his left side and kickers. His drop was 6 inches long. It was huge, right?
Wow.
He's probably 180, 190 inch.
Wow.
But it's like, okay, this deer exists. This is the deer I saw across the road, but like on his antler, he hardly rubbed anything, and he don't have to.
Right.
And then any other deer looked at him, he's like, oh man. And then he knows that, over the years, he's the only one left. So he has to live like where he was running is kind of like a fence row, and it was like private land and public land that met. And like the public land people didn't go all the way over to the fence row because it's private right there. And a private, so there's like a seam where he knows he could travel here. You know what I mean? And there's no rubs, and it's just like he's like other like. And I was like, and that's another thing. It sucks. I was on the edge of the public land. It wasn't like I can't go across the fence and go see. I know he probably lives a lot on private land, but I can't. That's what sucks. Like you said, like having that big public land, I can go and find his home range and learn him. But now I'm just kind of at the mercy of like, and so I did hunt there. I put cameras. I seen like 120, and I think someone else was hunting there, kind of screwed it up. And that's another thing. I was like, I was going to go down gun hunting, but I'm like, man, this place is hunting so hard and the weather's warm. I said, they ain't killing him. And he's surviving. Where he's surviving, I don't know, but I'd say he's still alive. And then I said, I can't wait till late season. I got half a dozen cameras down there running. Yeah, it's all public land. Some might steal them, but I don't know what you're going to do. I need to know where the deer's at. But,
yeah.
So that's a good thing about Ohio. You can hunt till February. I've shot deer down there. I think the last day, and I went to drag them, and their horns fell off.
That's funny.
But that's when, and when I hunted the 15, 16, I said, and the full moon was out, and I was like, man, I didn't have them on my cameras. I went back the following week. I don't have them on cameras. I think someone else was hunting there, and I said, you know what? And the rut was dying. I said, I'm done till about, muzzleloader's January 7th. So I said, I'm done till about the second week of January. I'm like, I drove down there to gun hunt. I left my house the day after Thanksgiving to go down there and gun hunt. I drove about 4.5 hours to get down there. I checked my cameras. He wasn't on the cameras. I turned around and drove home.
Right.
I said, I'll have to come back in January, maybe then, because his shed was there, right? That tells you. And nobody will be in the woods, but gun season and that. So them big bucks know when the hunting pressure is over, and they don't. That's probably why his horn was there, is because definitely no one's there in January.
Right.
But food is a big thing. So I got to go down there and find like I get back from Iowa, I'm gonna stop down there and see if I got him on them cameras. See if he's who knows,
It was
but that's why I
interesting
like hunting.
what you were saying about. I never thought of it about seams though, like where we're private, and because you're right. I mean, it's people that are hunting the public will avoid that private line because they don't want to hunt over there like close to the private because
Yeah.
part of the reason is like you don't want to shoot something close to that private line and then have to try to go get permission to go
Mhm.
retrieve it if it crosses the line or whatever. So a lot of people will just avoid that area just in general to avoid that whole possible scenario. And then on the opposite side of the fence, the people who own the private stay away from the public land because they think the public land sucks and they don't want to hunt next to it. You know what I mean? So it's just like there's this weird like gap that occurs where it's like a no man's land, and I never really thought of it, but you're right. You know what I mean? It's like that's an area where deer can probably get comfortable.
Yeah, and like a deer like that, like I said, even here in Southwest PA, I shot a deer maybe I don't know 6 years ago, and he was like maybe 160, and I shot him January 18th, 20th, I don't know, but and he lived there, and it was rifle hunted. I mean, the rest of the deer in the area were 100-inch and less, mainly yearlings, and there was this 160-inch because he got it down to a science, and he didn't live how the other deer lived. And it's every once in a while I run into a deer like that. He's just other. He's like a satellite. He just kind of moves through the woods where he knows no humans are or where no one's going to look. There's no trails. It's just like that's how they learn to live, to survive. And I know where this deer lived. He just I know where he bedded on this one hillside, And another thing that helped me there is there was a big snowstorm coming in, and I shot him with my bow. And he was, I knew where he traveled before dark, and that's the first year that I think PA actually extended their late season into like the 23rd or 24th or something where I lived in 2B. Otherwise, it was like the 10th or 12th. So
right.
The year before, people were seeing him in January. He was bigger the year before. We were seeing all that big bucks there, and that's another thing. A lot of people around here don't want to tell me John's going to go shoot it. It's like I tell people where to go, and then I ask them. They don't tell me because he'll go shoot my deer.
Right.
But I remember it was at my buddy's place, and he didn't. I said, "Hey, I heard you got a." He lets me hunt there. We grew up together. I said, "I heard you got a nice one over there." Who told you? I said, I just heard. I said, I'm going to kill him. He ain't a big hunter like us, but I ended up shooting him. And then I remember I shot him, and I sent pictures of people, and they're like, "Where's that from?" I said, PA, right? No, it ain't. Ain't nothing like that around here. All right, whatever.
Well, I mean, I tell you what, man, the deer are definitely getting better in Pennsylvania than I ever remember whenever I was growing up. That's for sure. I mean, people are killing some legitimate hammers, especially there's a fella up in the Allegheny National Forest, I think, that he does a little guiding, if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, he's on giant deer in there like no one's business and regularly. And he's killing them, and then he's taking people and putting them on them, too, guiding them, and they're killing them. So,
yeah,
there's definitely bigger deer in PA than I ever remember growing up.
And it's awesome. And my buddy lives up in the area, northern PA, Allegheny National Forest. There's guys from all over here hunting here. I said, hey, at least you got the animals to hunt. 20 years ago, they weren't here.
Right.
Now they're here. And so what? No matter where you are in the country, if there's big animals, the deer, the people are going to be there to hunt them. At least you got them here to hunt. So,
yeah.
But yeah, Pennsylvania, like I love it here in northern PA where I hunt. But then again, I love it. I just love deer. And then I go to Iowa, man, I love it here.
Right.
I love it. It's like everywhere I go, but I just love deer hunting. But
right.
PA great.
There's one question I wanted to ask you, and it's kind of related to what we were just talking about, or what you were just saying, where it's like you love deer hunting. So it's like I love Iowa, I love anywhere that I can go deer hunt, I kind of love. And I know we're somewhat alike in where we like to travel to hunt. It's like I'll go and my kind of saying is I have bow, will travel as long as I can get the time away to go hunt. And then I'll go. If I can get a tag and get the time, it's like I'm game for it. But there's a lot of folks out there who have never gone out of state and done a DIY hunt because they think it's hard or they don't know anything about the area or, or whatever the case is. If you were going to give someone advice that had never been out of state to hunt on like a DIY public land hunt, what would you tell them to help them get started, to prepare, to give them an opportunity for success?
I'd say go to where you got to get away from the people. Usually, like you're saying, a bigger piece of land it's rugged, and that's where my drive comes in. Like I'm still like at 125, like, oh, wow. So, I mean, there's years in Ohio, I'd walk up and over top of a mountain, get in a tree, and back up and over. And then I take people and, why are you going up? I was like, yeah, I do whatever it takes to get the deer within the rules, within reason.
Right.
I'll do whatever it takes. Doesn't mean run up the mountain. I'll go. I don't care. But a lot of people were hunting. Ohio got a lot of public land, but a lot of it's hunted hard.
Mm-hmm.
And if you study maps, going to go there, and there's other guys probably hunting there, and a deer on them. They could move to the private and this and that. But find a place, and there's, I mean, man, I look on Instagram, all the different states that have big bucks. So I mean, I'm still, and like I said, I hunt Ohio. I was trying to go to Illinois. I was thinking of hunting Illinois, Iowa. I mean, there were the big buck states, but them aren't the only ones because people are starting to gravitate. There are other states, but then again, I have, in the last 8 years or so, I got to know certain areas good to where when it's time to kill, I can go to them states and I got them spot. And I don't just have one spot. Like where I went to Iowa this year, there was stands in a lot of places I went. I don't know if they were gun hunters or whatever, but it's like, so I have other places up my sleeve. And I'm always, when I'll put cameras there, and I'm always looking for that new place.
Right.
But yeah, if you're looking at going out of state, I mean, I hunted whitetails in Montana, out in a rugged country. There's big bucks there. And it's the same thing.
There's real big bucks there that people don't think about.
Yeah, we don't want to go up there. And I said, I don't care. I just took my Jeep and I drove all the way out there. But every state, but you gotta, like I said, you gotta have cover, and you gotta have a area that the guys aren't really getting to, and then you're gonna start finding some animals.
Right.
The smaller, but then again, some of the small places are overlooked, real small. But mainly a bigger piece of land that has cover. Something, maybe there's a river you got to cross. Maybe you need a canoe. Maybe maybe it's up and down a couple of mountains. Okay, right. And then so it's stuff like that. And then maybe it's an area that don't have a lot of deer, but make sure like maybe and the best time is to go out maybe in March, April, the whole time in the spring. It's all what you want to do. Go out and scout them areas. Maybe even put a camera there till fall, see what's there. And then you'll be like, when I drove out to Iowa last week, I said, I don't want to go out to Iowa the day after Christmas. That's when I'm going, and start hunting. There's no snow, EHD hit. I don't want to spend 5-6 days learning, putting camp. That's me. I want to know what's there, whether it's 120 or 150. I don't want 130 step out. Yeah, I'm going to shoot him. Then 150 is right behind him. Right. I want to know what's there. And even in the past, I'd run cameras to know what's there, but maybe go out in the spring, maybe leave camera, scout, shed hunt, and that's the best time to see sign. And you'll be way ahead of the game when you decide to go there in the fall next year. Just being out there and putting your boots on the ground and seeing where the deer were the year before. But if you're just going to we're going to go here, we're going to pick a spot on a map and go out there, chances are you're not going to have that much success because there's a lot of variables that you don't know about just by reading the map. But I'd say if you could go, after Christmas, January, February, what's there to do? February, March, April, you got a lot of time to maybe, hey, let's take a ride or something like that. But yeah, you need to get it. I always say there's a big buck where nobody's at. Yeah. You know what I mean? They know where the humans are. And so if someone's hunting where I'm at, I'm going to go, I got another one up my sleeve. I got another area.
Right.
So you find a place where nobody's at, chances are it has all the right ingredients. You should be there.
Yeah. I mean, one of my
So
favorite things to do is to travel hunt. Like, I love it. I love just going to different states because I love seeing different terrain. I like seeing the way different deer act in different places. Like, I love everything about it. Like, I think I said it on this podcast, but my bucket list, like one of the things I'd like to do before they put dirt on me is I'd like to kill a respectable buck on public land in every big buck state, or as many of them as I
oh
can. Like, that's my
yeah.
goal is to do that. So this year I checked off Iowa, and I'll go back to Iowa as often as I can. You know, it's one of those places where every time I can draw a tag, I'll go. You know, I took one in Ohio. I'll go back to Ohio
Mhm.
this year. And then the year after that, I think I'm planning to go to Kansas, I think is the plan. And then actually
Yeah.
I'm sitting down with my buddy Chad, and he and I are going to kind of map out like our next like 5 years or so of like the places we want to go and places we need to, you know, draw or, you know, gather points for and stuff like that, and just kind of start making a 5-year plan of like all the states we want to hit, and just start going and hitting them, man. I mean, I just love to travel and hunt. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is I don't live near any of the places I hunt.
I know.
And
I know.
you know?
I know. I
So
know. I hear
that's the
that.
biggest thing. That's what I said with my Iowa trip. People say, "You're crazy. You're driving 12 hours." I was going 36 hours in probably 3 days, or what is that with 3 days? Is 24,
72.
48, 72 hours. And yeah, I said, you're going out for 3 days. I'm like, yeah. I said, that's all I got. I said, I'm going to drive 12, you know, sleep, get up, put cameras up and drive, you know, it's like, you're crazy. I said, yeah, but think about, I want to know. It's the biggest thing. I want to know what's there when I get there, or not.
Yeah.
If I go out for Christmas, like, well, okay, I could sit in a tree and hope the deer I want to shoot comes by, but I don't want to do that. But
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, you want to go to, and it's like, it's weird. Like I'm stuck. I can't get out of these states yet. I'm trying to.
Right.
It's like, I go to Iowa and then I stay with my friends out there.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I see them every year. But then, I got a place in Ohio, and I'm still stuck on. Well, I got that one big one I'm after down there. I do want to accomplish like another big one there. And then like I'm building a camp up in northern PA, and I love it there. It's like, and the rest's so short. It's like, man, I can't, but I think I'm stuck on these states. But there are so many. I go to West Virginia, any Arkansas. They got. I mean, just anywhere. There's big bucks everywhere. So
Yeah,
it's like,
I just had
about
an
another.
What'd you say?
Yeah. I said, you got about another 20, 30 states to hit.
I know. Yeah, it's the bummer was I had an opportunity to go to Alabama actually right now as you and I are recording this, because it's just in full transparency. John and I are recording this the Saturday before Christmas, since he's getting ready to travel and wanted to get this in before he was out of town. But I had a chance to go to Alabama and hunt with some friends.
Yeah.
I think the area that they're hunting, like where they're at, is like they're rutting right now in that part of Alabama. It's one of those places in the south that has the late rut that comes in late, if I'm not mistaken. But I just couldn't get away from work to go do it, and I was kind of bummed because I was like, man, I could have went and checked off another state potentially. Could have maybe killed a nice buck and like been able to check another state off the list. But whatever, man. It's like, my goal is to do, a respectable one in each one. And if I don't get there, then, it is what it is. But the goal really is like to go see as many places and to hunt deer in as many places and to kill bucks in as many places as I possibly can. That's the goal. That's what I want.
It's and you shoot 130, 100, whatever is your goal or your target deer, then you'll never stop. You always got a new goal. Like they're like you'll be hunting forever. You know what I'm saying? And hey, if I did a ball, okay, I'm going to start again. I'm going to start over. I'm going to go through them states. And it is neat going back to them states years late. Now that I've been hunting for so many years, I've gone into places that I ain't been in 5-10 years, and wow, and then you reminisce a different place you hunted and how different it looks, because you're really in tune with the woods and wow, I remember this. Look, this log there. This this log never used to be here. This used to be there. And it's just kind of past hunts and stuff like that. It's like a never ending. I don't know. But like I said, I think it all derives from being young and not having the deer around here, and then seeing one and then like nobody around town got any because then one guy got one, and then when I was 13 I started bow hunting, and then I didn't get my first buck till I was or my first deer with a bow till I think I was 16. I hunted 3 years, and it was like, man, I'm never gonna get one of these. My heart's pumping, and I
Right.
see one, and it's like, and so like I keep getting back to that. I want to keep getting back to that feeling. So I make it a challenge to myself, and to me, private hunting and public hunting, it's pretty different to me. You
Yeah.
can't manipulate the deer. You can't feed them and make them bed where you want. You can't pressure them to. So to me, I want that challenge. I'm putting it back myself back when I was 16 and killing that deer. So I
Right.
hunt the public land and set my goals higher, or like you said, go to a different state to keep it new, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. I mean, the public thing is just like what you were saying, where it's like you're playing the game on their terms, is really what it comes down to. You know,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
start to, look, there's some great habitat strategists and deer minds that are out there, like the guys like Steve Bartilla, like, there's guys like those guys that have forgotten more about deer behavior than I'll probably ever know. And they're
Mhm.
really good at building smart mouse traps on land, on parcels of land. And I'm good friends with some of those guys, and they're talented at it. And for people who have land and want to do that and can do that, like, hey, good on you. You know what I mean? That's awesome. It's but for me, it's like I'm the same way as you. It's like where I look at it as the challenge of, you know, they're the wilderness. Mother Nature is dictating to me the terms by which I'm going to play this game every season, and you could even get to the point of every day that I'm hunting. Like,
Yep.
I control none of it except what I'm able to do, right? And to me, it's just like I enjoy that more because it's like, control the things you can. It's just like in life, control the things you can, and don't worry about the things that you can't. They're going to take care of themselves one way or the other because you don't have any say in it. And I kind of like that aspect of deer hunting because, our family piece and stuff like that. I did do food plotting and, manage the property and do some hinge cutting and, trying to build better habitat and stuff like that. And I enjoy that kind of work. I like putting my hands in the dirt. I grew up on a farm and stuff like that. So it's like I dig doing that kind of stuff. I grew up in a farm area, and my grandfather owned a farm and stuff. And, but as far as hunting goes, it's just, I find more enjoyment out of not having to do that and then just going out and being like, what cards am I dealt this year? And let me figure it out, So,
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. You have to. Yeah. And it's like, and to me, it's different. Like you said, like hinge cutting or putting food plots in. I'd love to do that.
mm-hmm.
Um, I'm just so into hunting public land. Like my little place at my camp, I got up north. I had 2 acres, and I put a little food plot in the back, and it's cool watching deer, and it's different. It's a different type of hunting,
Mm-hmm.
and it's great. Hunting's good. Like I know people say, "Oh, you shot it in a high fence." Hey, that's good. You're hunting. I don't care, But it's like
Right.
it's just they're a little different. This is what I'm choosing to do. This is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
And there might not be that much glory in it,
Right.
but I get satisfaction. I might not shoot the 160, 170 every year.
Right.
I probably won't.
Right. I mean, the
I
one
don't.
thing, the one thing for me too is that my dad's he's not an old man by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, in all things considered, he's in his mid 60s. And I see him, and he owns a piece back in our hometown. He lives, like I said earlier, he lives in the Carolinas, and he owns a piece back where I grew up. And I put a little food plot on it, and I hunted it once. I hunted it opening day of gun season this year with my bow, because my old man was up and we hadn't hunted together in some years. And I put a food plot in there every year so he can kind of come up and hunt it and stuff like that. And I kind of look at hunting like this. Like, while I'm young enough and in shape, and, and I like to get up and work out in the mornings and stuff like that. And whether it's hunting elk, going out west to hunt or whatever, it's like I enjoy hunting public land, and I enjoy rugged hunts and tough hunts right now because my body will allow me to do it. Like, it will withstand the punishment and the abuse that I'm going to dish out, But I recognize that as I get older, right, that some of those things are going to become less of an opportunity, and my body's going to be less willing to accept the abuse, right? And so to me, that's like how I look at like my hunting future is like, while I can, I'm going to do all the hard stuff, because whenever my body won't allow me anymore, that is when I would look at like, all right, let's get a back 40 and do some food plotting, because I still want to go hunt. I still want to enjoy the outdoors, but I can't go grind 7 miles in the whitetail woods and then hang a set and hunt till dark and then get up and do it all over again the next, it's like body's just not going to allow me to do it. And so at that point, then I want to have a form of hunting to transition into to where I can still enjoy it. It's still somewhat new and keeps me active and keeps me in the woods. So that's kind of how I look at my hunting future.
Yeah, you're right. And I think I'm kind of the same way, that when I'm older, I like to, I'm going to do it forever, but I might just take a different approach to it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Pull the old Gene and Barry Wenzel, no higher than 6 feet off the ground, like a ladder.
That's right. Yep.
They killed plenty of big deer, basically being sitting in like a recliner a couple feet off the ground.
That's what I told my buddy. I said, hey, we were hunting. I went down to South Carolina and just wanted to get a velvet deer. I went down in August. Well, it was brutal, but I said, hey, there's a little high field. I said, so you got a ladder? What do you mean? I said, he comes across this power line. They're sitting on a ladder. They're like, what? But yeah, just get above the weeds. You just see so you can shoot the thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
I thought that's great. So we ended up hunting there. I mean, you just got to think outside the box, and you got to be different.
Yeah. You
got to think differently.
Yeah.
If you're going to do what everybody else does, then you're going to have, because most of the hunters, kill, it's like few, what they say, like 5% of deer kill 90%,
right.
5% of hunters kill 90% of deer, but it's kind of like, you got to be different, you got to be other, you got to adopt different, people to think crazy thoughts, and then, I don't know, maybe it'll work. And I even tell people that I hunt with, I say, we'll go over here, and I think they, when I usually say, I think they come down, I told my one buddy, I said, I think this is where they come, this might be good, maybe. He said, I was following you till you said maybe. He said, you know all this about deer, why do you say maybe? I said, because this is, maybe you have a better idea. I said, it's like the box without the picture on it. I'm kind of filling in the pieces.
Right.
And I, like, when I went hunting with my girlfriend, I said, where do you want to sit? She's like looking at me like, what do you mean? I said, I don't know everything. I said, I'm still guessing. Maybe you have a strategy.
Right.
Or a thought, how you see it. This is how I see it, and this is what I come to. But people, just because you're new to deer hunting, you might have something, you thought of something. I don't know. Wow, that's a pretty good idea.
Right. It's the whole idea of like, sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees, right? It's like you're so in it and you're so consumed with it that sometimes someone who has less experience comes with a fresh perspective because they're not bound by conventional thinking, and they're like, why don't you just try this? And you're like, that just might be dumb enough to work. You know
right.
What I mean?
When I don't listen, I rarely read hunt magazines, or I don't even listen to podcasts. Like when I go to a hunting spot, I'm totally focused on what I'm going to do, because the area I'm hunting, I know more about it than nobody's going to really tell me as far as reading a magazine with the area I'm hunting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like when I was young, I read was it kind of, unless they were like actually hunted that area and the same, they got good results. But anyways, I just I know the most about the area, but there is, like you said, with the unconventional thinking. When you take someone to an area, what do you think? Maybe we should hunt here. You want to get up? Yeah, I see it. So, I want your input too on it.
Right.
That's what's nice about. And then you get a couple of guys together hunting, and you go here, and I said, "What'd you see?" I see this. And you kind of like brainstorm and learn more, But it's just like I said, we could stay up all night and talk. I
know.
The ball just keeps rolling. We start talking this way or that way about, and you get lost.
That's right. Well, with that, I think that's a good segue, because we've been rolling for almost coming up on 2 hours here. We can probably cut her off here, man. I appreciate you coming on. If you wouldn't mind, tell people where they can follow you and follow your hunting on Instagram or online. Because is there places where they can kind of keep up with what you got going on?
Yeah, on my Instagram page at Johnny Stewart, at the Johnny Stewart. I think that's what it is. Yeah, and I, even sometimes I get caught up. I don't even get pictures up in that because I'm so super focused on, like, I'll get a deer. I'll post a picture in that. And even sometimes, like when I was in Iowa, I wanted to take videos and put it up, but I'm so in tune to what I'm doing and so focused on it. And, my time was limited. It's like, I just, I forget that there's not enough time. And like with me, it's sometimes I'll shoot my bow like 4 times. It's a shame to say it, but like my gun, I won't even sight it in until I get to Iowa. And the farmer's like, your gun says, I didn't have time, because every minute I'm thinking about where the deer's at, or like if I have free time through the summer, I'm scouting. If I get free time, I'm scouting. I'm in the woods all the way up to it, and it's like, oh, I should have shot my bow. I should have did this, or like even washed my clothes this year. I'm like, I don't even get time to get my clothes clean. I need to be hunting next week, but it's right. Like, I get so into it, I get lost in it, and I'm just obsessed with it. It's like, it's a shame. Yeah, I don't know if it's a shame.
Well, I think there's a lot of us out there just like that, man. So I think, well, man, good luck to you in Iowa. Let's make sure we catch up when you get back from your trip. We'll have to do a part number 2 and see how everything shook out, and then maybe one of these days you and I'll be able to get together in person, maybe do a scout, or hell, maybe even do a hunt at some point. Maybe me, you, and Litzinger, and maybe we'll take the Mustache Man bow with us too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'll definitely be in touch. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on, man. All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for listening, and if you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We'd be super appreciative if you'd be able to do those 2 things for us. And before I shut this thing down, I need to give a big shout out to our partners who continue to help us make this podcast possible. Tethered, Exodus Outdoor Gear, Skull Brew Coffee Company, Gumleaf USA Boots, and Day 6 Specialized Gear. And until next time, we'll see y'all.